Apache raids against the Medina division of the Republican Guards.
It is one of the best of the Republican Guard divisions, one of the most powerful of the Republican Guard divisions. I am sure that it has been degraded significantly in the last 48 hours or so.
British Prime Minister Blair told the House of Commons what the Americans are trying to do.
As we speak, they are about 60 miles south of Baghdad, near Karbala. It is a little way from there that they will encounter the Medina division of the Republican Guard, who are defending the route to Baghdad. This will plainly be a crucial moment.
Here is Karbala, and here is the 3rd Infantry Division, a force heavy with tanks. Behind them is the 101st Airborne Division, ready to conduct a helicopter assault into the rear of the Republican Guards. U.S. military officers say the race to Baghdad is an attempt to end the war as soon as possible, but at the risk of leaving the rear exposed, which is exactly what happened in An-Naziriyah Sunday, when both the Army and Marines suffered their worst casualties.
That helicopter to land now. We got a critical patient needs to get out of here.
On our defensive side, on the Gulf side, they got flanked and it went unleashed. There must have been tons of them because I just heard walls of fire, mortars, everything.
Once the sandstorm clears out of the way, the Battle of Baghdad could begin. And there is every indication the Iraqis intend to make a fight of it. Dan?
David Martin reporting live from the Pentagon. Facts on the ground indicate that overall, from a military standpoint, the invasion continues to go well. With that as the context, we take you to the front lines. CBS's Jim Axelrod is with the U.S. Army's heavyweight 3rd Infantry Division, an armored, mechanized unit driving toward Baghdad. Jim filed this report from somewhere south of the Iraqi Shiite holy city of Karbala tonight. That's about 50 miles south of the capital.
Never have so many troops moved so far, so fast. But during its historic push, the 3rd Infantry didn't just drive. They battled as well, taking on pockets of resistance and capturing hundreds of Iraqi soldiers.
One of the majors spoke English. He told us that their government had been telling them, when we got here, even if they gave up, we're going to kill them.
But as the Iraqis discover humane treatment, they've been sharing information.
And we're learning all kinds of things about this regime and this enemy and this terrain, and that's all very useful.
Take the captured weapons displayed this morning. The guns are old, but look at the gas masks.
It's like a regular chemical protective mask. It was made in 2002.
Brand new, as were the decontamination kits and atropine, used to treat exposure to nerve agents.
I would guess that they're planning on using chemical warfare. They may or may not use it, but they're ready for it.
But it's not just the captured gas masks raising concerns about the possible use of chemical weapons. This picture of Saddam marks the entrance to an Iraqi weapons depot. Another captured Iraqi has told Army officers that while conventional weapons are stored here, he has reason to believe chemical weapons are stored here as well.
This afternoon, the Army sent its chemical detection units to the depot.
This will look up any chemical contamination.
Specialist Steve Moore sat in one of the foxes, as they're called, sniffing with high-tech sensors from miles away before sending others in for a hands-on search.
The other team's going to go in and they're going to detect for liquid contamination, and if there's any vapor there that's not detected by this, they'll pick it up over there.
That won't happen until tomorrow, leaving the question hanging if the Army has finally discovered what it came so far to find. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, with the 3rd Infantry in Iraq.
While U.S.-led forces keep moving north, they do still have some trouble behind in places like Naziriyah, where 10 U.S. Marines died in a battle that began yesterday. 50 were wounded, several are still missing. The Pentagon said today Naziriyah is now under U.S. control, but CBS's John Roberts, who is there, reporting from the edge of the city, tells us the battle is still being fought tonight.
The Marines paid a heavy price in An-Naziriyah, measured in both human lives and significant delays to their battle plan. The shooting started Sunday when a battalion of Marines pushed through a city they believed had already fallen. But members of Saddam Hussein's feared Fedayeen militia, who had made indications that they were going to surrender, suddenly picked up their weapons and opened fire, cutting a Marine column to pieces. Some Marines expressed anger today that they were waved off of any danger in An-Naziriyah. that the Army's 3rd Infantry Division had come through the city on Saturday and declared it safe. They are also enraged that the Iraqi government put pictures of the American POWs being interrogated on television. After 30 hours of wearying house-to-house fighting on the streets of Al-Naziriyah, the Marines decided to do it their way, sending a massive column of tanks and armor north toward the city. But while the Pentagon says the Marines now control Al-Naziriyah, the glow of mortars and artillery still lights up the night sky. The fighting has thrown the movement of thousands of troops and vehicles toward the north significantly off course, and it has thrown a shock into the Marines, who now call the area where their comrades were killed Mogadishu Alley, a reference to the disaster in Somalia, where 18 U.S. Rangers lost their lives. John Roberts, CBS News, with the Marines in southern Iraq.
Besides ridding Iraq of chemical and other outlawed weapons, main goals of the war include bringing Iraqis freedom and food. To do that, Allied forces need to secure the small but important Gulf port of Qasr to establish a relief supply line. CBS's Scott Pelley is covering the battle for full control of Qasr.
Securing the vital port of Qasr has been a tougher fight than expected. U.S. Marines and British forces swept into the port days ago, but they are still taking fire from small, determined bands of Iraqi troops. Marine Captain Rick Crevier told us there's Saddam Hussein's Special Republican Guard using special guerrilla tactics.
It appears that their modus operandi is to dress up in civilian clothes, wave white flags so we don't shoot at them, but then they get in their bunkers and they shoot at us.
Qasr is Iraq's deep water port, essential to military supplies and desperately needed humanitarian aid. The Navy is finding sea mines here hidden on civilian boats. Captain Mike Tollotson worries that the Iraqis planted the mines without U.S. spy satellites noticing.
It appears that the Iraqis have been relatively ingenious in the way they have disguised their mine-laying capability.
Mines like these crippled 2 U.S. warships in 1991. Tomorrow, the Navy plans to use trained dolphins to hunt for the mines in the harbor. In the southern oil fields, sporadic resistance chased away American civilian firefighters today. They said they felt like sitting ducks. Captain Crevier says it's tougher than he expected, but even after days of battle, he doesn't expect it to last.
Short!
Why do you think they'll capitulate soon?
They can only stand so much of our artillery. Quickly, you start to understand that there's no other alternative but to capitulate or to surrender.
If that's coming, it won't be too soon for the port. Dock workers won't come back here until they feel secure. Today, U.S. Marines who were guarding the port flew north to fresh combat, leaving behind British Royal Marines who will fight building to building to dig out the small but determined opposition. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Qasr, Iraq.
And with Qasr not yet fully secured as a supply line for vital relief aid, the International Red Cross is warning a humanitarian disaster is now in the making nearby in Iraq's second largest city, the big port of Basra. More than 1 million people live in Basra. With sporadic combat in and around Basra, there have been widespread power blackouts, and the city's main drinking water system is out. The backup system is described as not always reliable or safe. It's become the big guessing game of the war. Is Saddam Hussein alive or dead? CBS's Mark Phillips reports there was a big new clue today, a new Saddam appearance on Iraqi television. Apparently tape recorded, but when was it recorded?
They bombed the bunker he was thought to be in, and Saddam or someone like him popped up on Iraqi TV. They blasted his capital and his palaces for 4 more days, and Saddam or someone like him popped up on Iraqi TV. Today's Saddam seemed less bloated, and his vision seems to have improved from last week. The glasses were gone, but the defiance was still there. As he spoke to his troops, he seemed neither shocked, nor awed, nor ready to give up.
So hit them now as you have been ordered, hit them below the necks and strike them hard.
Saddam's reference to recent fighting seemed designed to make this appearance seem current. He singled out commanders in Basra and Qasr for commendation, for example.
I am thankful in the Battle of Qasr to him and all the people that did well. In Basra, persevere, brothers. Victory is near.
But fighting in Iraq's deep south could have been anticipated well before this war began. There was no conclusive evidence as to when today's appearance may have been recorded.
There is still the possibility of Saddam Hussein's people issuing tape recording. We're well aware that he spent many hours recently tape recording various messages.
Since the initial bombing, speculation about Saddam's well-being has abounded, that he was dead or wounded or needed a blood transfusion. In terms of the battle, the coalition's commander says it really doesn't matter.
This is not about one man. This is about an oppressive regime.
A regime that knows it's fighting for its life, and one that Saddam said today is fighting this war according to its plan. Give up in the desert, resist around the towns, and above all, drag things out. If the U.S. and Britain want a short war, Saddam wants a long one. Patience, he said over and over again today. Patience. Dan.
Mark Phillips reporting live from Kuwait City. Coming up next year on the CBS Evening News, American POWs in Iraq. Their families back home, waiting, hoping, praying.
Imagine if nature stopped working. Well, that's what it's like when Raymond's constipated. Phillips works with his body more naturally, gentle and stimulant-free, like nature intended. Phillips relieves constipation so he's his natural self. Phillips, the comfortable way.
That's me with his whole family. So you on a farm? Yeah, imagine with my allergies. Go where you wanna go, do what you want.
This is Trisha.
Now, there's a new and different way to treat seasonal allergies. Singulair, the only seasonal allergy medicine that specifically blocks leukotrienes, an underlying cause of allergy symptoms. It's a once-a-day tablet that helps relieve a broad range of symptoms for a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
Side effects are generally mild and vary by age and may include headache, ear infection, sore throat, and upper respiratory infection. Ask your doctor about Singulair.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ready to go for a tractor ride?
You know, I think I did just fine.
Singulair, a different way to treat seasonal allergies.
Okay, the charges. Bubba's Biker Bar, $471. Tattoo Town, $355. Leather Rama, $822. And the Motorcycle Pit, $720.
Okay, that comes to $2,368.
Perfect. That's what the bank put back in our account.
Oh. Total security protection. Good. For stolen check cards. Free from Bank of America. Higher standards.
Northland's 100% juice.
Northland Cranberry Grape has the refreshing goodness of 4 times as much cranberry juice as their cran grape juice drink.
And Northland is refreshing.
Northland, 100% juice. Northland, 100% juice, 100% refreshing.
Even if you brush your dentures every day, you're missing something. Brushing can miss odor-causing food particles trapped in crevices. Polydent with more polyvescent power scrubs out what brushing misses. Polydent every day for better odor control.
I'm happily married with 827 kids, so you can imagine the headaches.
Deal with a bad headache fast. Extra strength Tylenol.
On days like this, it's nice to have control over something.
Tylenol. Take comfort in our strength.
Iraqi television showed pictures today of 2 Americans, it said, with the captured crew of an Apache helicopter downed south of Baghdad. They are now identified as Ronald Young, Jr. of Georgia and David Williams of Florida, both based out of Fort Hood, Texas. One can only imagine and empathize with their fear and anxiety and that of their families. The same goes for the first 5 American POWs captured earlier and their families back at Fort Bliss, Texas. CBS's Vince Gonzalez is there.
They are the grim faces of this new war, the first American POWs, injured men and women forced to do interviews on Iraqi television. They haven't been seen since this tape was first broadcast by the Arab news channel Al Jazeera.
What's your name?
Joseph Hudson's mother didn't even know he was in Iraq until she turned on her television.
I was so glad and worried that I saw my son that being interviewed, because there's only mean one thing, he's still standing and alive.
There are 5 known POWs from the Army's lightly armed 507th Maintenance Company, mechanics and repair crews based at Fort Bliss in El Paso. The unit took a wrong turn during fighting around Al-Nazariya and was ambushed.
What's your name?
Even wounded, Edgar Hernandez was forced to talk, as was Shoshana Johnson, who joined the Army as a cook. Her family has special fears for her safety.
She's a lone female. I do not know where she would be in respect to the fellas. I do know that in the country, such as that women are treated differently.
You come to kill Iraqi people?
Patrick Miller told the Iraqis he was, in his words, just there to fix stuff. His family back in Kansas still can't believe he was captured.
It just tore me up inside. I mean, I didn't think it could be my brother, but it was.
Jeffrey Fox knows what the captured Americans could be in for. He was a POW during the first Gulf War.
There were times where you were just sitting on a chair, handcuffed and blindfolded, where they would come up and literally beat you up, and that's when I had my right eardrum was broken.
Why do you come from Texas to Iraq?
I hope the President of the United States will do something about the people that has been captured. I want them to get them out.
The White House promises that everything possible is being done and warns anyone who mistreats Americans will be considered a war criminal. Dan?
Vince Gonzalez reporting live from Fort Bliss, Texas. Coming up next here on the CBS Evening News, a new and urgent warning from the FBI. This man could be plotting a major terror attack inside the United States. You'll hear from his family.
Mr. Goodwrench, who is this one and only GM expert? I gotta find this guy.
You're Mr. Goodwrench?
Yep.
Which means you use genuine GM parts.
Well, actually, we all do.
Now you're just trying to throw me. Mr. Goodwrench had over 1 million hours of GM training last year?
That's right.
Doesn't leave much time for Mrs. Goodwrench now, does it?
Find Mr. Goodwrench at over 7,000 GM dealerships nationwide.
If Mr. Goodwrench were a tool, what kind of tool would he be?
A wrench?
Ooh, sorry, miter saw is what we were looking for. Miter saw.
Grandpa, how come you always chug your Metamucil?
Because if Grandpa doesn't drink his fiber fast, it gets thick and gritty.
Mommy doesn't chug her fiber?
That's because Mommy found an easier way to take fiber. Benefiber.
Benefiber?
It never gets thick and gritty like Metamucil can.
So Mommy doesn't have to chug it.
Benefiber's taste-free, too. Mommy can even put it in her coffee or yogurt.
Mommy's pretty smart.
Benefiber. The choice is clear.
I'm not taking any chances.
I'm not putting it off a minute longer.
58% of women in their 50s have thinning bones, and risk increases with age. But a quick and painless bone density test can tell if your bones are thinning. If they are, this is the age of Fosamax. Fosamax once weekly is for postmenopausal women at risk for or with osteoporosis. It's proven to help reverse bone loss. You should not use Fosamax if you have certain disorders of the esophagus, are unable to stand or sit upright for 30 minutes, have severe kidney disease, or low blood calcium. Before use, talk to your doctor if you have stomach or digestive problems. Stop taking Fosamax and tell your doctor if you develop new or worsening heartburn, difficult or painful swallowing, or chest pain, because these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems.
Bone density test?
Bone density test.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Ask your doctor about a bone density test and if Fosamax is right for you. This is the age of Fosamax, helping reverse bone loss.
I got a $50 bid. Can I get a 55? Who'll give me 55? Come on, I'll give you 55. I got a 50.
Could Procrit be right for you? Talk to your doctor about Procrit or call 1-800-PROCRIT.
What do I want in a Glade plug-in? Well, it'd be fresh. What about a nightlight and an extra outlet? Perfect.
Glade Plug-in's extra outlet nightlight.
Plug it in. Now that's a bright idea.
America at War. CBS News, led by anchor Dan Rather, the most impressive roster of reporters on the scene. Stay with the experience of CBS News.
On the terror trail, the U.S. government is now publicly chalking up a global hunt for an alleged Al-Qaeda foot soldier who, it is said, may be planning an attack inside the United States. CBS News correspondent Bob Orr is covering the search for a terror suspect who has family in Florida.
4 days after issuing a worldwide alert for Adnan El-Shukri Juma, the FBI today made an urgent and unusual public plea for help in finding the suspected Al-Qaeda operative.
He's being identified by senior members of the Al-Qaeda organization as a very, very, very serious threat to the United States interests, both here and abroad.
The FBI first became aware of the 27-year-old Saudi while investigating the 9/11 attacks. And sources say El Shukrijuma's name recently surfaced again, first in a document recovered in Afghanistan, and then during the interrogation of Al-Qaeda kingpin Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. El Shukrijuma's father, who lives near Miami, says his son lived in Florida in the late 90s, but left about 3 years ago. His family says the last time they heard from him, several months ago, El Shukrijuma was living in Morocco. His brother Nabil